The most dangerous lie we've been told isn't about money, success, or power. It's about love. We've been conditioned to believe that without a romantic partner, we're somehow defective, incomplete, or worse, yet unworthy of happiness. This toxic belief has driven millions to settle for mediocre relationships, sacrifice their dreams on the altar of companionship, and lose themselves in the process of trying to find someone else. The uncomfortable truth is that most relationships today aren't born from love. They're born from fear. Fear of being alone, fear of judgment, fear of missing out. My dear friends, there's a profound truth that stirs within each of our hearts, yet we often push it away, afraid to embrace its power. That truth is this: your completeness as a human being has nothing to do with finding another person. Your wholeness exists right now, in this very moment. Let me share something deeply personal with you. For years, I watched countless souls rush into relationships, desperately trying to fill a void they felt inside. They would tell themselves, when I find the right person, everything will fall into place. But here's what I've learned through decades of observing human behavior and transformation. The most beautiful relationships bloom from two people who have first found peace in their solitude. You see, being alone isn't a punishment. It's not a waiting room where you sit until your real life begins. It's a sacred space where you discover the vastness of your own potential. Think about it. How many times have you compromised your dreams, adjusted your path, or dimmed your light because you were afraid of being alone? When we're not comfortable being alone, we often accept connections that don't serve our highest good. We settle for relationships that feel like wearing shoes 2 sizes too small. They might look good from the outside, but every step we take is painful. We convince ourselves that any companionship, is better than none at all. But here's the fundamental truth that society often fails to acknowledge. The quality of your life isn't measured by whether or not you're in a relationship. It's measured by the relationship you have with yourself. When you truly understand this, it changes everything. Consider the oak tree. It doesn't rush to grow. It doesn't compare itself to the saplings around it. It simply focuses on deepening its roots, strengthening its core, and reaching toward the sky at its own pace. Nature teaches us that everything has its season, and forced growth rarely leads to lasting. The time you spend alone is not empty space to be filled. It's fertile ground where your authentic self can flourish. This period is your opportunity to become intimately acquainted with who you are when no one else is watching. What makes your heart sing? What dreams have you kept tucked away, waiting for permission to pursue? Many of us have been conditioned to believe that being alone means being lonely, but there's a profound difference between solitude and loneliness. Loneliness is the painful awareness of being disconnected from ourselves and others. Solitude, on the other hand, is a conscious choice to be with ourselves in a way that nurtures our spirit. During your time of solitude, you have the chance to develop what I call your inner compass, that quiet, knowing voice that guides you toward what's truly right for you. When you're constantly surrounded by others' opinions, desires, and expectations, this voice can become muffled, even silent. But in solitude, it grows stronger, clearer, more trustworthy. Think about the relationships you've witnessed or experienced that seemed perfect from the outside but crumbled because one or both people hadn't done their inner work. They brought their unresolved pain, their unfulfilled needs, their unhealed wounds into the relationship, expecting their partner to be their solution. But no other person can heal what we haven't addressed within ourselves. The journey of self-discovery isn't always comfortable. There will be moments when you face parts of yourself that you've been avoiding. You'll encounter old patterns, limiting beliefs, and fears that have been directing your life from the shadows. But each time you choose to stay present with yourself, instead of running into the arms of another person, you grow stronger. This strength isn't just for you. It's for everyone whose life you touch. When you learn to be complete within yourself, you become capable of forming relationships that enhance life rather than complete it. You stop seeking someone to rescue you and start looking for someone to share your already full life. Consider how many times you've heard someone say they lost themselves in a relationship. This happens when we haven't developed a strong enough sense of self before merging our life with another's. But when you know who you are, your values, your boundaries, your non-negotiables, you don't lose yourself. You bring your whole authentic self to the relationship. The beauty of being alone until the right person comes along isn't in the waiting. It's in the becoming. Every moment you spend developing your interests, healing your wounds, and building your dreams is an investment in your future happiness, whether that future includes a romantic partnership or not. You're creating a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling. During this time, you learn to parent yourself, to comfort yourself, to celebrate yourself. You discover that you can handle difficult emotions without needing someone else to make them go away. You learn to trust your own judgment, to honor your own boundaries, to respect your own timing. When you embrace this period of solitude, something magical happens. You start attracting different kinds of people into your life. Instead of drawing those who want to fix you or be fixed by you, you attract those who are also doing their own inner work. The energy you emit changes from neediness to wholeness, from desperation to peaceful confidence. And here's the paradox. The more comfortable you become with being alone, the more likely you are to recognize the right person when they do come along. Because you're no longer looking for someone to complete you, you can clearly see who complements you. You're not trying to fit someone into a role in your life. You're open to discovering how your two complete lives might dance together. This isn't about building walls or becoming so independent that you don't need anyone. It's about building a foundation so strong that when you do choose to let someone in, it's from a place of want rather than need. It's about becoming so comfortable with your own company that you only welcome those who add genuine value to your. Remember, the right person isn't someone who fills your emptiness. They're someone who celebrates your fullness. They don't complete your sentences. They inspire new conversations. They don't fix your life. They enhance the life you've already created. Until that person arrives, every moment alone is an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, more self-aware. An opportunity to build a life so rich and full that when the right person does come along, they'll have to be pretty extraordinary to add to it. Think about the relationships you admire most. Chances are they're between people who had already developed strong individual identities before coming together. They chose each other not out of desperation or loneliness, but from a place of mutual respect and genuine appreciation for who the other person is. The path to self-discovery requires courage, the kind of courage that allows you to sit with your own thoughts, to face your fears, to acknowledge your dreams, even the ones that seem too big or too distant. This journey isn't about reaching a destination. It's about becoming the person you're meant to be. Many of us have been taught that love is something we need to seek outside ourselves. We've been conditioned to believe that without a romantic partner, our lives are somehow incomplete. This belief has led countless individuals to rush into relationships before they've had the chance to truly know themselves. The relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. If you don't trust yourself, how can you fully trust another? If you don't know your own worth, how can you recognize when someone truly values you? If you haven't learned to make yourself happy, how can you contribute to someone else's happiness? The time you spend alone is sacred. It's in these moments of solitude that you begin to hear your own voice, clearly unclouded by the opinions and expectations of others. You start to understand what truly matters to you, not what society tells you should matter. You learn to distinguish between your authentic desires and the ones you've adopted from others. When we're uncomfortable being alone, we often fill our lives with noise, with constant activity, endless distractions, superficial relationships. We do anything to avoid facing ourselves, but it's precisely in facing ourselves that we find our greatest strength. It's in these quiet moments that we begin to understand our patterns, our triggers, our true desires. Think about the most important decisions in your life. Were they made from a place of clarity and self-knowledge, or were they reactions to fear, loneliness, or external pressure? When we make choices from a place of wholeness rather than lack, those choices tend to align more closely with our authentic selves. During this period of solitude, do you have the opportunity to develop what I call your emotional muscles? Just as physical muscles grow stronger through resistance training, your emotional resilience grows stronger through facing and processing your feelings independently. You learn that you can handle disappointment without crumbling. You discover that you can celebrate your achievements without needing external validation. The beauty of this journey is that it's entirely yours. No one else can do this work for you. No one else can discover your truths, heal your wounds, or define your path. This is your time to explore, to experiment, to make mistakes, and to learn from them without the added complexity of managing another person's feelings or expectations. Many people fear that, focusing on self-development means becoming selfish or self-centered. But the opposite is true. When you develop a strong, healthy relationship with yourself, you become more capable of forming genuine connections with others. You stop using relationships as a way to escape yourself and start using them as a way to share yourself. Consider how many relationships fail because one or both partners are trying to use the other person to fill a void within themselves. This creates an unhealthy dynamic where both people feel responsible for each other's happiness, leading to codependence rather than interdependence. But when you've done the work to become whole on your own, you can enter relationships from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. During this time of personal growth, you learn to recognize and appreciate your own company. You discover that you can enjoy a meal alone, take yourself on adventures, celebrate your achievements without needing an audience. These experiences build confidence, not the kind that needs to be constantly validated by others, but the quiet certainty that comes from knowing and accepting yourself fully. One of the most valuable skills you develop during this time is the ability to set and maintain healthy boundaries. When you're uncomfortable being alone, you might tolerate behavior that doesn't align with your values just to keep someone in your life. But when you're at peace with solitude, you can choose your relationships based on genuine connection rather than fear of being alone. This period of being alone also gives you the chance to develop your interests and passions fully. Too often, people compromise their dreams or put their goals on hold to accommodate a relationship. But when you use this time to pursue what lights you up, you become more interesting, more fulfilled, and more likely to attract someone who appreciates and supports your authentic self. The right person won't just fit into your life. They'll expand it. They won't complete you because you'll already be complete. Instead, they'll complement the life you've built, adding their own unique perspective and energy to your world. This is why it's so crucial to build a life you love before seeking a partnership. Remember that being alone doesn't mean being isolated. This is your opportunity to deepen your connections with family, friends, and community. These relationships can provide the support and companionship you need while still maintaining the space for personal growth. They can offer different perspectives and experiences that help you understand yourself better. As you continue on this journey, pay attention to the subtle ways your relationship with yourself is changing. Notice how you speak to yourself, how you treat yourself, how you honor your own needs and desires. These small shifts in self-relationship create the foundation for all future relationships. When you truly understand that you are complete on your own, something remarkable happens. The desperate need to find someone disappears, replaced by a peaceful openness to possibilities. You stop trying to force connections or make relationships work. That you develop the patience to wait for what's right rather than settling for what's available. This doesn't mean the right person will magically appear the moment you've achieved some perfect state of self-actualization. Life doesn't work that way. But it does mean that when you do meet someone special, you'll be in a much better position to recognize and appreciate them for who they truly are, not who you need them to be. The work you do on yourself during this time is never wasted. Every insight you gain, every pattern you heal, every strength you develop becomes part of who you are. These qualities don't disappear when you enter a relationship. They become the solid foundation upon which healthy partnerships can be built. Consider this time of being alone as an investment in your future happiness. Every moment you spend getting to know yourself, healing old wounds, and building a life you love is preparing you for deeper, more meaningful connections when the time is right. You're not just waiting for the right person. You're becoming the right person for yourself. One of the most powerful realizations you can have is that your worth isn't determined by your relationship status. Society often sends us messages that suggest being single somehow makes us less complete, less successful, or less worthy. These messages can create a sense of urgency that leads to poor choices in relationships. The truth is, your value as a human being is intrinsic. It doesn't increase when you're in a relationship or decrease when you're single. Understanding this at a deep level changes how you move through the world. It changes how you interact with potential partners. Most importantly, it changes how you treat. During this period of solitude, you have the opportunity to develop what I call your inner sanctuary. This is the peaceful space within yourself where you can always return, regardless of what's happening in your external world. Building this sanctuary requires time, attention, and practice. It requires learning to be comfortable with silence, with stillness, with your own thoughts and feelings. When you have a strong inner sanctuary, you stop seeking escape through relationships. Instead, you begin to see relationships as opportunities for growth and sharing. You no longer need someone else to make you feel safe, complete, or worthy because you've already created that for yourself. This inner work isn't always easy. There will be days when loneliness feels overwhelming, when the temptation to settle for less than you deserve is strong. These are the moments that define your journey. Each time you choose to stay true to yourself, instead of compromising for companionship, you build emotional strength and self-trust. Think of this time as preparing the soil of your life. Just as a gardener knows that rich, well-prepared soil is essential for healthy plants, your personal growth creates the conditions necessary for a healthy relationship to flourish. You're not just passing time until someone comes along. You're creating the foundation for all future connections. One of the most valuable aspects of being alone is the opportunity to develop your decision-making abilities. When you're in a relationship, decisions often require compromise and consideration of another person's needs and preference. But during this time, you can practice making choices based solely on what feels right for you. This builds confidence in your ability to know and trust yourself. This period also allows you to develop your emotional intelligence. You learn to recognize and understand your own emotional patterns. You discover what triggers certain reactions in you, what brings you joy, what causes anxiety. This self-knowledge is invaluable in future relationships because it allows you to communicate your needs and boundaries clearly. Many people rush into relationships because they're afraid of missing out or being left behind. But consider this, every moment you spend in a relationship that doesn't honor your worth is a moment you're unavailable for the right connection. Being alone isn't missing out. It's preparing for something better. During this time, you also learn to parent yourself with kindness and wisdom. You develop the ability to comfort yourself during difficult times, to celebrate your achievements, to set healthy limits. These skills don't become redundant when you enter a relationship. They become the foundation of healthy interdependence. One of the most profound shifts that happens when you embrace being alone is in how you view love itself. Instead of seeing love as something you need to receive from others, you begin to recognize it as an energy you can generate within yourself. This doesn't mean you don't want to share love with others. It means you're no longer dependent on others for your sense of being loved. This shift in perspective changes everything. When you know you can generate your own sense of love and worth, you stop accepting behaviors that diminish you. You stop trying to prove your worth to others because you already know it. You stop trying to earn love because you realize it's your natural state. The time spent alone also gives you the opportunity to face and heal your past wounds. Many of us carry hurts from previous relationships, childhood experiences, or societal conditioning. When we rush into new relationships without healing these wounds, we often recreate painful patterns. But when we take the time to acknowledge and heal these hurts, we create space for healthier connections. Consider how many relationships are formed from a place of trying to avoid pain rather than create joy. When we're afraid of being alone, we might choose partners based on their ability to distract us from our discomfort rather than their ability to complement our authentic selves. But when we're comfortable with solitude, we can choose from a place of wanting to share rather than needing to escape. This period of being alone also allows you to develop your spiritual connection, whatever that means for you. Whether through meditation, prayer, time in nature, or other practices, you have the opportunity to develop a deeper understanding of your place in the universe. This spiritual foundation can provide comfort and guidance throughout your life. Remember that being alone doesn't mean your life is on hold. Every day is an opportunity to grow, to learn, to experience, to contribute. Your life is happening right now, and it's valuable and meaningful exactly as it is. The right person will add to this already complete life, not rescue you from an incomplete one. During this time, you also learn to recognize the difference between genuine connection and mere attraction. When you're uncomfortable being alone, it's easy to mistake physical attraction or chemical excitement for truth. But when you're grounded in yourself, you can better distinguish between temporary infatuation and genuine potential for lasting connection. This period of solitude also gives you the chance to develop your own rituals and routines. You learn what daily practices support your well-being, what environments help you thrive, what boundaries you need to maintain your peace. These aren't things you'll need to abandon. When you enter a relationship, they're part of what makes you who you are. Understanding the art of being alone requires us to examine our relationship with time. So many of us view the period before meeting the right person as a waiting period, as if our real life is on pause until that magical moment of connection. This perspective robs us of the rich opportunities for growth and self-discovery that lie. What if we viewed this time not as waiting, but as preparation, not as an empty space to be filled, but as fertile ground to be cultivated? Every experience you have, every challenge you overcome, every skill you develop during this time becomes part of who you are. These experiences shape your character, define your values, and determine the kind of relationship you'll ultimately create. Your capacity for joy, for creativity, for contribution to the world shouldn't depend on whether you're in a relationship. When you fully embrace this truth, you begin living with greater intention and purpose. You stop putting your dreams on hold, waiting for someone else to come along and validate them. You begin pursuing them now, creating a life rich with meaning and achievement. The quality of your future relationship will be directly proportional to the quality of the relationship you build with yourself now. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming authentic. It's about developing the courage to be who you truly are, rather than who you think others want you to be. Consider the different energies you bring to relationships. When you're coming from a place of wholeness versus a place of need. When you're whole, you're not looking for someone to rescue you or complete you. You're looking for someone to share in the joy and adventure of life. This shift in energy is profound and affects the very nature of the connections you create. During this time alone, you have the opportunity to develop what I call your emotional literacy. This means understanding not just what you feel, but why you feel it. It means recognizing the difference between temporary emotional weather and your deeper emotional climate. This understanding becomes invaluable in future relationships, allowing you to communicate more clearly and respond more wisely to challenges. One of the most powerful aspects of being comfortable alone is the ability to maintain your center regardless of external circumstances. When you know you can generate your own peace, your own joy, your own sense of purpose, you stop looking to others to provide these things for you. Instead, you look for people who are doing their own inner work, who bring their own wholeness to the table. This period of solitude also allows you to develop your discernment. When you're not driven by the fear of being alone, you can take the time to truly see people for who they are, not who you want them to be. You can notice red flags without feeling compelled to ignore them. You can honor your intuition about whether a connection feels right. Think about the relationships you've witnessed that truly inspire you. Chances are they're between people who each brought their own sense of completeness to the partnership. They didn't need each other. They chose each other. They didn't complete each other. They complemented each other. This is the kind of relationship that becomes possible when you do your inner work first. The time spent alone also gives you the opportunity to develop your creative expression, whether through art, music, writing, or any other form of creativity. You have the space to explore and develop your unique voice. This creative energy doesn't disappear when you enter a relationship. It becomes part of what you bring to the partnership. One of the most valuable skills you can develop during this time is the ability to sit with uncertainty. Life doesn't come with guarantees, and relationships certainly don't. When you learn to be comfortable with not knowing when, or if the right person will come along, you free yourself from the anxiety that often drives poor relationship choices. This period of solitude also allows you to develop what I call your inner compass, that quiet, knowing voice that guides you toward what's truly right for you. When you're constantly in relationships or surrounded by others' opinions, this voice can become, but in solitude, it grows stronger and clearer. Remember that the goal isn't to become so self-sufficient that you don't need anyone. Humans are naturally social beings, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to share your life with someone special. The goal is to become so comfortable with yourself that you can choose relationships from a place of wisdom rather than. During this time, you also learn to recognize the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is a painful state of perceived isolation. Solitude, on the other hand, is a peaceful state of being comfortable in your own company. Learning to transform loneliness into solitude is one of the most empowering skills you can develop. This journey of self-discovery also involves learning to trust the timing of your life. Just as you can't force a flower to bloom before it's time, you can't force the right relationship to appear before you're truly ready for it. Trust that the work you're doing now is preparing you for experiences that are yet to come. The relationship you build with yourself during this time becomes the foundation for all future relationships. The way you talk to yourself, the way you honor your own boundaries, the way you pursue your dreams, all of these set the standard for how others will treat you. When you truly value yourself, you naturally attract others who will value you too. As we draw our time together to a close, let us reflect on this fundamental truth. The ability to be peacefully alone is not just a skill, it's a superpower. It's the foundation upon which all meaningful relationships are. When you can be complete within yourself, you transform the way you approach relationships, moving from necessity to choice, from dependency to partnership. The greatest gift you can give your future partner is the work you do on yourself now. Every moment you spend developing self-awareness, healing old wounds, and building inner strength creates the foundation for a healthier, more fulfilling relationship when the time is right. This isn't selfish. It's the most responsible thing you can do for your future happiness and the happiness of your future partner. Your journey of personal growth isn't just about preparing for a relationship. It's about becoming the person you're meant to be, about fulfilling your unique potential in this world. The right relationship will be a natural extension of this growth, not a replacement. It will enhance your life, not complete it. Consider this period of being alone as an investment in your future. Just as you wouldn't build a house without first laying a strong foundation, you shouldn't rush into a relationship without first developing a strong sense of self. The time you spend now getting to know yourself, understanding your needs, and healing your wounds will pay dividends in all your future relationships. Remember that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. When you learn to generate your own sense of wholeness, you discover that solitude can be deeply nourishing. You find that quiet moments alone become opportunities for reflection, growth, and renewal rather than sources of anxiety or emptiness. The right person won't just fit into your life. They'll expand it. They won't just accept who you are. They'll celebrate it. They won't complete you. They'll complement the wholeness you've already created. This is why the work you do now in solitude is so crucial. You're not just passing time until someone comes along. You're creating the conditions for a truly extraordinary relationship. Your worth isn't determined by your relationship status. It's not measured by whether someone else chooses you. Your worth is intrinsic, unchanging, and complete. The sooner you embrace this truth, the sooner you'll stop accepting relationships that don't honor your value. Trust in the timing of your life. Trust that the work you're doing now matters. Trust that every step you take toward knowing and accepting yourself brings you closer to the kind of relationship you desire. Not because you're becoming perfect, but because you're becoming authentic. The love you seek is not outside of you. It begins within you. The peace you desire is not in another person's presence. It's in your own heart. The completion you long for is not in finding the right partner. It's in recognizing your own wholeness. When you truly understand these truths, something remarkable happens. The desperate search for love ends. The fear of being alone dissolves. The need to compromise your values for companionship disappears. In their place comes a quiet confidence, a peaceful certainty, a knowing that you are enough exactly as you are. This doesn't mean the right person will never come. It means that when they do come, you'll be ready. You'll be able to recognize them because you've done the work to know yourself. You'll be able to receive their love because you've learned to love yourself. You'll be able to build something meaningful together because you've built something meaningful within yourself first. Until then, embrace this time. Use it wisely. Fill it with growth, with learning, with self-discovery. Let it be a time of becoming, of strengthening, of deepening your understanding of who you are and what you truly want from life and love.